Hi everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Background Noise. This week we're going to be talking about the Apple iPad. There's been a huge amount of hype and a huge amount of press coverage of the launch of the iPad this week, but we're going to be asking the question, why would you want to buy one? And we'll look at some of the pros and cons, we'll look at what it does, what it doesn't do, and we'll explore it in a bit more detail and explain it as we go. Stay tuned. So, to understand why the launch of the iPad was such a big deal, you have to understand what a tablet PC is and why they're different from other PCs. Most of you have seen a laptop, it's got a screen, it's got a keyboard, it's portable, you can walk around with it. Well, a tablet PC is really a laptop where the screen's been taken off, turned around to cover the keyboard. The idea is that you can hold them like a stone tablet and you can write on them and it should recognise your handwriting, or in some cases you can have a keyboard on the screen. Just as well Moses didn't have one of those, there'd be a lot more commandments. So the tablet PCs are quite a niche thing. They came out quite a while ago, but really they never found their use in life. Some businesses use them. They're kind of handy for getting customer signatures. However, they've never hit the mainstream and they've never become a popular item. You don't see them down at the shops very often. Now, Apple have a history of innovation. They have a history of coming up with new ideas, new technologies, or using existing technologies in different ways. The real trick has been whether Apple has been able to somehow change the tablet PC into something that everybody wants to own. So what we'll be doing now is having a look at some of the pros and cons. What have they got right? What haven't they got right? And what do we think we're going to use it for? Here we go. So, to begin with, let's talk about a few of the things that Apple really got right. The first one is the design. It looks beautiful, it's got a beautiful rounded back, they say that so that it's easy to hold, it's silver, it's glass, it's very elegant. It's something that you'd really want to be seen with. That's a positive. The second thing is some of the technology in it. That beautiful screen that it's got has what's called multi-touch capability. Multi-touch allows you to touch it in several places and move things around and drag things across, not like an old touch screen like you get in those tourist information kiosks where you just press the big button. This can sense as your hand moves over it the different areas of the screen together simultaneously, so you can drag two things if you want to. It allows you a lot more flexibility with how you move your hand. That means that the programs can work quite differently. The battery life is worth talking about. 10 hours battery life quoted, and look, we'll see what happens in the next few months to see whether that 10 hours is a true 10 hours. A lot of laptops quote 10 hours, but they're 10 hours as long as you don't press any of the keys and you have the screen brightness turned down to nothing and you turn them off. We'll see if that's the case, but it's a good start. And look, the last thing to talk about are the applications. Apple say that it's got access to 140,000 applications through their online store. Look, 140,000's a lot. Don't know if you'd need them all. Don't really know if you'd need many of them at all. But it's good to see that they're out there. Obviously, there are things it'll be able to do straight off the shelf. You download those, it'll work for you. It comes preloaded with some applications as well, just to help you get moving. So it's a clever piece of technology. Let's see, though, what they might have got wrong and what you should be careful of when you buy one. So the first thing you'd have to notice about the iPad that's going to be a bit of a concern is that it doesn't run the same operating system as Apple's desktops and laptops. It runs the iPhone operating system, which means that it can't quite do all of the same things that your regular computer might do. If you have a piece of software on your laptop at the moment and you want to run it on the iPad, it won't work. But you can download applications from Apple's online store to run on it. And that's great, but you might already have one killer application that really works for you, and you're going to be disappointed that you can't run it on this platform. It's a real shame. But then the other funny thing about it is it runs the iPhone operating system, but you can't use it as a phone. It would seem pretty obvious that if you had a single device you could carry around and you could use it as a phone and you could look at the internet on it with the nice big screen, that'd be great. But for some reason, Apple have decided it's not a phone, despite the fact that it's actually got a 3G network card in it to connect to the telephone system to get data for the internet. So I've even heard stories that it won't use the internet phone system, Skype. So yet to see about that, yet to try it out. But it's a little bit of a, I don't want to say an oversight, but it may be something that they'll add in the future. We'll have to see. It's also worth mentioning that the battery, with the 10 hours life, is totally internal. This was one of the criticisms of the MacBook Air, the very, very thin MacBook that came out a while ago, in the fact that if you have a battery die in a normal laptop, you unplug it, you put a new one in, that's fine. But with the iPad, it's inside, which means that somebody's going to have to open it up and service it when the battery dies. Again, they haven't been around long enough to know how long that's going to be. But we'll find out in due time. Hopefully it won't be too painful. And look, the last con that I can think of is there is a program called Adobe Flash that is used everywhere on the internet to provide interactive content and video and games and all sorts of things. It allows you to do animation and amazing sort of sound effects and things like that in your browser. And a lot of websites actually use it as their introductory screens. Well, this doesn't support Flash. And I don't know why they would do that. It's possibly a licensing problem with the Flash software, but it means that if you've got a favourite game site on the internet that you go to, or if you want to stream videos from a site that doesn't support the new HTML5 language, which is gradually coming out to replace some of these things, it means that you're not going to be able to use it. So the web browser on the iPad will work for the vast majority of sites, but there will be some key things that it won't do, which is a little bit of a hole. So we'll see how it goes, but there are some holes to be fixed at some point in the future. Only time will tell how they do that. So we've had a look at the iPad, we've seen some of the pros, we've seen some of the cons. However you look at it, it's a very impressive piece of technology. However, I get this feeling that it's a piece of technology looking for a use. It's a bit like the phrase out of Jurassic Park. They've spent so long wondering whether they could do it, that they didn't really think about whether they should. It's hard to say where it fits into the world yet and what it's going to be used for and what its niche is going to be. However, it's a first, and firsts don't always last. However, they do sometimes evolve into things that then do last. So 5 years from now, we may not be talking about an iPad, but we may be talking about something that replaced it that did just those few things that it doesn't do. In the meantime, think carefully about buying one because you're still going to need your phone. You're still going to need your laptop or your desktop. And the iPad then becomes a very expensive accessory to those. So just beware, have a good look at one. If you can find a really, really good use for it, go for it. Knock yourself out, it will be brilliant. However, if you can't think of a good reason to buy one, but everybody else has one, just watch that. It's a lot of money to spend. So that wraps it up for our first episode of Background Noise. Thanks very much for watching. If you want to know a bit more about the show or a bit more about me, you can go to www.davidgriffiths.me. You can also follow me on Twitter at SwankyDG. And by all means, I'm after ideas for the show. So if you've got an IT story you want to tell, if you want to ask a question that's IT related, if somebody's told you something you don't understand, email me at david@swanky.com.au. And look, I'll try to answer your email no matter what. And look, some of them may make it onto the show, which would be great. So thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next Friday. We look forward to it.